Hello, hello, and welcome to the 57th episode of the Veggies Abroad podcast. I'm your host and chief veggie pusher, Rebecca Gady-Sawicki. If you're new around here, Veggies Abroad is a travel company that believes exploration should be a force for good. And for us, that starts with being plant-powered. Every trip we design is guided by compassion for people, the animals, and the planet. From custom trip planning and small group adventures to our blog, packed with guides, tips, and inspiration, and of course, this podcast. This show is all about shining a light on the businesses, people, and ideas that make travel better. From vegan-friendly experiences to responsible tourism practices and community empowerment, because those are the things we need more of and the things worth supporting when we travel. So today's episode is going to be the start of a little bit of trip catch-up. Last year, I spent some time in Cambodia and Vietnam, but we haven't had a chance to really chat about either destination. So if you are even a tiny bit curious about either of these countries, this episode, and then most likely the next one after this, is definitely for you. The other thing we will have a catch-up on about soon is our first impact report. If you are on our newsletter, you would have received it at the beginning of January. I am planning to go into a little bit more detail about it and what that means for our future very soon. When the email went out, it was really nice to get notes from some of you. It was a big project and will continue to be, so I was really happy to see that somebody actually read it. I know, shocking. I think that's always a fear for many small businesses, is that you put a ton of effort into something and then you think, oh my God, did anybody read this? Did anybody care? Is anybody out there? Is this thing on? It's a story of my life with this. Okay, so let's jump in without further ado and talk about a country that's known for really stunning temples, one that attracted Angelina Jolie, a tragic history, rich Khmer culture, and some of the nicest people I think I've ever met, Cambodia. And joining me for this conversation is my part-time traveling partner who has just recently unthawed from running outside in negative temperatures. Matt, thanks for coming back.
Happy to join you. Looks like we're going to be talking about the Kingdom of Wonder today. Very excited.
Oh, I didn't know that was the nickname for it. Thanks.
It is, 100%. And did you also know that it's the only country with a building on its flag?
I did know that. I learned that while I was there. I thought that was interesting, and it wasn't something that I had really thought about with flags.
Do you know what building is on the flag?
It's the Angkor Wat.
That is, which is a very popular site, is it not?
Yes, 10 points for me.
10 points for you, which also I learned this week, for all your listeners out there, that you are like a master of geography.
Oh.
So, like, I can name
I'm
any
adding
country.
it to my resume.
Oh my God, you can. Because I can name any country. And
oh God, not any country.
And it seems like you'll know the capital of that country. So let's just dive in with just this one. What's the capital of Cambodia?
Cambodia. Phnom Penh is the capital of Cambodia.
Nice work.
Oh, good. I'm glad that I knew that. I was really worried you were going to throw something out very remote, like some tiny island nation that most people would have never heard of. And then I would have very quickly looked at Google, told Jim to edit this so that it looked like I actually knew.
No way. I'm just trying to be relevant.
Oh, okay. Anyway, continue.
All right. So I'm excited to learn a lot about this trip because I think going into it, maybe you had a different expectation than what you got out of it. So why did you go to Cambodia? And did you have any expectations before arriving?
Sure. So I went to Cambodia because I've had multiple clients reach out, specifically clients that were attached to our Thailand tours that were considering adding Cambodia onto their visit to see Thailand. And, obviously prior to last year, I didn't have any firsthand knowledge of it. And there are definitely countries that if I'm going to advise someone on, I really would prefer having firsthand knowledge, especially when we get into some of the nitty gritty of things to expect or food. Those things are really hard. I mean, it's very possible through local connections to break down those things, but seeing something firsthand and talking to someone are two wildly different things. So that is initially why I wanted to go to Cambodia. And I had time. So we ran 2 tours last year to Thailand. The first one was in November, and then the second one wasn't until December. So I had time in between both of those tours to then add on some additional Asia travel. And Asia is a part of the world that once I get over there, I'm going to explore, do what I can while I'm there, because I'm not coming back again anytime soon. It is just too long of a flight, too expensive of a flight to not really utilize that expediently and efficiently. So I had that time already built in to do a little bit of further investigation. And prior to getting there, I don't know, I didn't have any huge expectations of Cambodia. It was never, to be very honest, it was never high on my list. Angkor Wat seemed kind of cool, but Angelina Jolie didn't really provoke me enough to really want to go and see it.
Not a big Tomb Raider fan then, is what you're trying to say?
I've actually never seen the movie. I'm so sorry. I actually said to someone, I was like, maybe I should watch that on the plane, and promptly forgot about it. So really, the only thing I had in mind before going there was, one, I was pretty sure that food was going to be challenging. And two, I assumed that, the highlight would be Angkor Wat, and I don't know, maybe they'd be scenic, and that would be about it.
So you say a lot of people ask you about going to Cambodia. What is their main question in general? Are they just wanting to go to see Angkor Wat, or is it more like they want to experience the country because it's kind of Thailand adjacent in that general region?
1,000% people want to go to Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat is the leading reason that people last year asked me about going to Cambodia. And then they were curious, okay, well, if we're going to go see Angkor Wat, is there anything else that we should go see? Should we extend it any further? But I think both of them were very much interested. Angkor Wat was the reason. And Angkor Wat is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It receives tons of visitors. So it's not a surprise that it would be the reason why so many people would be like, yeah, I need to go to Cambodia.
So you spent most of your time in Phnom Penh. Phnom Penh. And Siem Reap?
Yep.
How do those two places feel alike and different from each other?
So Phnom Penh, this is so funny. I always tell clients when I'm working with them, do some research. Here are some things to read before you go. And literally probably 48 hours before I was going, I'm doing some random Googling about what did I sign up for? What did I get myself into? And I remember thinking...
Wait.
Yeah, I'm not super prepared always.
You, unprepared, just signed up for something without even knowing what the itinerary was going to be?
Yeah, it's pretty much my job.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's better that way. Yeah, just tell me where to be, and I will be there, and I will be on time. If I don't have to put too much effort into all of the logistics, I will follow just about anybody at this point to make my life easier.
The life of a travel advisor does not want travel advice.
No, the life of a travel advisor doesn't want to put too much effort in until you absolutely have to, because you're putting in so much effort for everybody else.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, yeah, you just tell me where to be and I'll be there. Tell me what time breakfast is, too. So anyway, back to your question. Phnom Penh is the capital. We already established that. It's really busy. It's loud. I guess some people may consider it a bit dirty. It's very much a working city. You'll see people eating together on sidewalks, massive amounts of scooters weaving through traffic. Traffic is really its own sight to behold. You've got tuk-tuks competing with cars, competing with scooters, competing with people on bicycles, and it honestly never felt like there was really traffic signals or traffic signs. Just people inherently knew, okay, that guy's going to turn. Okay, I'm going to turn now. And as chaotic as it was, it almost seemed like its own kind of ballet. And it worked, which was wild. I could not ever imagine driving there as a foreigner because you just would not know the culture of that. And I would not would not encourage anyone to do that either. Like, but being in the back of a tuk-tuk and watching that unfold was crazy. And then like someone buzzing by with a cart filled with fruit, wild. And everything, it's a busy city from, morning to night. People are always working. They are really hardworking individuals, Cambodians in general. It seemed like the city honestly never slept. Even the rooster that was outside my window at the first place, he never slept either. I really wish he would have. And then Phnom Penh is also well known because it carries some of Cambodia's recent very tragic history, which has to do with the Khmer Rouge. And there are museums there, memorials. People will talk to you about it because it is just maybe a generation away from them. I would say it's not really a city like you would describe like in as a beautiful conventional sense. But it is a type of city that you will remember long after you leave. And then compared to Siem Reap, Siem Reap is much calmer. It's much more manageable. It's easier to walk around. It's slower paced. It immediately felt more comfortable. It wasn't as go, 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 go. And because of Angkor Wat, tourism is kind of the heartbeat of Siem Reap. It brings in jobs, infrastructures, opportunity. And so that also creates a much more visible difference and change in visitor-focused areas and everyday light. It's just immediately different. It's less chaotic. It's probably more of what you kind of would expect. Things are, a little bit more regulated, I guess would be the right word. It's not as chaotic. And that contrast, you notice it like right away from just a few streets away from, the main, shopping areas, the main hangout areas. And then Angkor Wat obviously is a big pull for Siem Reap. And then for people who are like, what? I've never heard of Angkor Wat. It is the largest religious monument in the world. It is one of Cambodia's most important cultural and spiritual sites. It was built in the 12th century. It was, interestingly enough, originally a Hindu temple and then became a Buddhist site. And so in it, when you go to visit, you see religious symbolism from both of those throughout, which is interesting. It's massive, super massive. I'm not sure exactly how much space it takes up, but it does. It's a full day of exploring all of it. And some of the temples and things are all spread out, and that's really impressive of its own. But it's also really interesting of like how it has managed to survive the Khmer Rouge. It's survived, not being taken care of. Now it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so there is more money being put into it to keep it up. And you also see what really cool thing that I thought was really neat about it is that nature has kind of embraced it, and there are trees growing through some of these very ancient and religious parts of it that just look super cool. And I'm sure like when you see some of those pictures, that's what you remember maybe from movies. And as you already mentioned, it's on the flag. So it's Angkor Wat is a symbol of identity and pride for the people who live there. So
for relevancy, for people that don't know, the Khmer Rouge era was between 1975 and 1979. So that's incredibly recent. Did you see signs of that mass genocide in the way the society there is today? I mean, I know that already it's a young nation, meaning that more than 40% of the population is under the age of 25. But did you see other signs of how the genocide affected those people while you were there?
So without going deep into that history, I think you just think, okay, this is a poor country. People don't have a lot. They're struggling, especially in Phnom Penh. And once you understand that history and have that context, then you understand, wow, These people have survived, honestly, the unthinkable. It's no wonder why, they're struggling with, infrastructure, trusting politicians, still to this day. So to give people listening some context of what happened between 1975 to 79, the Khmer Rouge regime carried out a really brutal genocide that it is estimated killed 1.7 million people. And at the time, this stat blew my mind. The population of Cambodia was only 7 million people. So almost 2 million of them were just wiped off of the map. The Khmer Rouge regime targeted intellectuals, professionals, politicians, religious leaders, anybody who they thought was a threat to their thinking and to their power. The people who they did not kill were farmers, generally, people who were lower class, people who didn't have any kind of an education. If you had just a little bit of education, you were going to be killed. And as you already mentioned, this is an ancient history. 1975 to 79 was not that long ago. What is that, 45 years? And so that people who are living today, that is a part of their family. So it could have been that their parents were murdered, their uncle was murdered, their entire family was wiped off the map. Our one tour guide that we had throughout Cambodia, his uncle was killed. His parents survived because they were farmers. They lived in a very rural area. They didn't push back on anything. They were not seen as a threat. And then he was born after 1979, so he didn't know what life was then, but he knew that his mom and his dad were very quiet about this, and there were some things that they never talked about to him until much, much later in life, which I just can't fathom. And so the biggest city that this was first affected by was Phnom Penh. So when the Khmer Rouge regime came in to power, they told everybody to march out of Phnom Penh for 3 days, that the entire city had to be empty. If you tried to stay, you were immediately killed. If you were found to be still living in the city, you were immediately killed. And then the people who they caught, or the people that they decided to jail, there are jails all over, but there is a very significant one right in Phnom Penh. It's called S21. It is now a museum. And people were then brutally tortured there until, they got out of them whatever they wanted to get out of them. And then from there, they were then sent to what are called killing fields, which the name kind of tells it all. And so this is really so important, why tourism is so important for their economic recovery. It has the ability in the most direct ways to reach everyday people in the country and people who have lost so much, through generations. And it's creating a different social and economic infrastructure. And during this time, too, a lot of people would say, or that I overheard during tours, were like, I can't believe I didn't learn about this in school, or I was X years old, or however. And part of that is because the Khmer Rouge regime blocked the country off from the world. So they did not allow anybody to communicate with anybody from the outside. They didn't let the outside understand what was going on as well. So there was no exchange of information. Borders were entirely closed. Landmines were set along all of the borders throughout the countryside, so people stayed exactly where they knew they were supposed to be, and they didn't challenge this. And so obviously after the genocide, Cambodia faced massive challenges with a destroyed education system, lost workers, limited industrial development, and then tourism kind of came out of there. And tourism has been one of the ways that it has been able to, get back on its feet, to give people a livelihood.
So given this recent history, is there certain ways that a traveler should behave, or is there certain things that they should know about before visiting Cambodia, other than the history that you've just given me? Like, is there like culturally things that they should do because of this history?
I think you should just be a very good listener. Some people are going to want to talk to you about this, and some people are not going to want to talk to you about this. The history of this is very challenging to experience and to listen. And like if you go to the museum, or if you go to the killing fields, it's a hard place to wander through. And you might have to take a little bit of a break, but I would say that given what these people have had to endure, that it's really important that you do your best to listen, to be open, to take that in, and be very respectful of it.
Good point. Yeah, it's got to be really difficult for the people there to live among those monuments to such a difficult time in the recent history. With 1.6 million people being affected, I imagine that many of the people there have family members and people that they've lost that they still think about.
Yeah, and it was 1.7, and that's just what the government has recorded. The estimate is that it is much more than that as well. And I think like so many things, like, yes, it's hard for them to remember those things, but I think they also don't want to forget. Just like so many other tragedies around the world, people don't want to totally forget these things because they don't want to repeat them.
Well, let's go back into some of the more positive things about your travel there, because we want people to come and see this and see some of the great things that Cambodia has to offer. And while certainly paying respect to the past there, what do you think stood out to you most about Phnom Penh beyond the usual tourist highlights?
Oh, well, I'm going to go right back to it. I mean, the most impactful thing was absolutely learning about the Khmer Rouge. I didn't know a whole lot about the history previous to that. And then visiting the Genocide Museum, which is the prison, and learning about what happened there. And then after that, we went on to one of the killing fields. I will absolutely never forget that. And they do give you a warning, like this could be a lot. Maybe you want to skip something or whatever, but I highly recommend you do not. And, it's amazing what people will do when, their lives are at stake or for power. And it's, also terrifying. And I think, an interesting thing that I learned there, so at the Genocide Museum, which was a former prison, obviously just about everybody was murdered that was there. Either you died in prison or you were taken out to a killing field. But there were 7 men who were able to survive, and there's a giant photo of them there. And that's incredible what they were able to endure and survive. Some of them did die shortly thereafter, but there's one man who is still alive today. And he comes to that museum almost every day, depending on how he's feeling, so that he can meet visitors. He wrote a book a while ago about his experience. And I said, like, are they paying him to do this? Forcing him? Like, what's the deal here? And our guide shared with us, no, he feels like it's really important that people need to kind of put a face to the history and know that this was very much real. And again, like I said, he doesn't want this to repeat it again. And seeing him, I was just thought, wow, that was really incredible.
So you mentioned the way that the people were treated and the landmines being set up everywhere, which brings me to something that's very important to Veggies Abroad, and that's that you like to donate to certain organizations that do things that are positive. And so you found one of those organizations in Cambodia, didn't you?
Yeah, so in Siem Reap, there's a really cool organization called APOPO, and they are responsible for training giant African pouched rats and dogs for sniffing out landmines. And they have a center there in Siem Reap. They also have a large headquarters in Africa. And so at their office and facility in Siem Reap, you can go and see how they do this work. And it was really incredible. So the rats are trained to they are trained to smell TNT, and they have a great sense of smell. I want to say that they can smell about 3 meters. And so what they do is with 2 handlers, they go back and forth through an area and smelling. And then when they smell TNT, they stop and they scratch at the ground, and that signals to the handler, okay, there could be something there. And so they have the hero rat come back to them, they give them a little treat, and then they send them back out again to see, okay, was this a false positive or was that right? And if the rat scratches there again, then they know, okay, we need to then send a human out there to then check it. The hero rats, the giant African pouch rats, are not heavy enough to set off the landmines, which makes them really great workers for this. And they also can get into spaces where humans and dogs are effective. The other really cool thing about them is that they're much faster than humans. So, for example, a hero rat can check the area of a tennis court in about 30 minutes, and that would take a human 4 days. And we're talking about, so currently in Cambodia, it's estimated, I believe, about 60% of the country has been cleared of landmines. So there's still 30% of the country that is not. And so that's a huge amount of land that it's not safe to go and explore. It's not safe for communities to use. It's not safe for housing or farming. And so, using these hero rats, they can clear all of this land so much quicker. And they're estimating that by 2030, they will have completely cleared Cambodia of all of its landmines. The hero rats and the dogs don't just work in Cambodia. They work in parts of Africa. They work in Ukraine, around the world. It's really amazing what they're able to do. And then there's such a critical step in long-term recovery for some of these places that are dealing with something that is incredibly tragic, that absolutely stops a community in its tracks. The other neat thing is that they don't just find landmines, they also help protect wildlife trafficking and tuberculosis. And so tuberculosis is one of the most contagious diseases, devastating around the world. And so they're using the hero rats to find samples that are carrying that, which I thought was really neat as well. Tuberculosis is not something that, if you're in North America or Europe, you've probably thought about. But if you're in Africa, yeah, it could absolutely be a life-threatening problem for you. And these little guys are making a huge impact. Hey there, fantastic listeners. Let's hit pause on this episode for a thrilling announcement, a golden ticket to globetrot with Veggies Abroad. Veggies Abroad isn't just your go-to for vegan guides and trip planning tips. It's your passport to extraordinary small group journeys, carefully crafted by the ultimate veggie pusher and your favorite podcast host, me, Rebecca Gady-Sawicki. I've spent countless hours researching the best vegan hotels, food, and experiences, and now I'm bringing those experiences directly to you. Join me and my newfound veggie pals on escapades to exotic and exciting destinations around the world, whether it's trekking through the Thai jungle to witness elephants in their natural habitat or exploring Iceland's famous ring road. Our adventures are nothing short of spectacular, and guess what? Those aren't the only exciting trips awaiting you. So what are you waiting for? Cruise on over to veggiesabroad.com pronto. Well, how about after this episode is over to explore our dazzling lineup of tours and secure your spot today.
Okay, well, you said giant rats. So what are we talking? Like, how big are those guys?
So they are, gosh, how big are these guys?
Are they big as a cat or like smaller than a cat?
No. They are much smaller than that.
Do you have a picture on your website, like what they look like?
I don't have a picture on the website of what they look like, but if you look at our impact report that does link to them, it says, okay, so I just looked it up to kind of give an idea. They are about 2 to 3 pounds.
Oh, so they're not real big at all, 2 to 3 pounds.
No, the giant part is a bit misleading, I feel like. Yeah, so they're little guys.
But they're giant compared to like the
house mouse.
Norwegian rat, right?
Just like, a rat that you'd see in an alleyway. Yeah, so they're a bit bigger than them. But they're not heavy enough to set off a landmine.
Okay, well, I'm sure people don't want to hear all about rats, but we could.
They're so cool. They're really neat.
We can talk about it for a while.
And at the facility, you can watch them in action, and they're really cute little guys.
What a great organization! That's such a great thing. I really like hearing about that too.
Yeah, and they do a really great job with the animal welfare. Those guys only work, I think, the hours of like 6:30 to 8:30 in the morning or so. They only try and have them work when it's coolest in the morning. And then they normally retire around 7 or 8 years old. Or if they decide the rat decides it doesn't want to work anymore, then they'll retire it and they just stay in like the colony with all their friends and play and live out their lives there. And so they have pretty strict working requirements for the little guys, and they only work 5 days a week. And on their weekends, they play and eat and hang out.
They got a posh little lifestyle. All right, well, let's get back to some of the travels here to Siem Reap, which oftentimes is reduced to just temples because of Angkor Wat. But outside of Angkor Wat, what surprised you most about the city?
I think one of the most surprising things was that it was pretty touristy. Or there was like touristy spots that I didn't expect after coming from Phnom Penh. I just didn't expect that. And it was much easier to navigate. People were incredibly friendly. There were really good food options. And like to the friendliness of people, I was actually walking back one morning from breakfast, and a woman, she was on a motorbike with, I'm assuming, her daughter, a small child. And she paused and she didn't speak English, but she motioned asking if I wanted a ride. And I thought, wow, that's incredibly nice. You have no idea who I am. And like other people had not guides, but like drivers, when I'd like use the Grab app to get around or whatever, they would ask if I needed anything else, or everybody was really willing to help in some way if they could. And I think people really wanted to practice English as well. And I'm happy to oblige with that.
A stark difference from the motorbikes in Morocco, I guess I would say.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's its own podcast episode, too.
Right. Oh, man. So, all right. So probably what everybody wants to hear, and a very important topic, because you mentioned that it might be difficult from the onset to find things that you could eat. Let's talk about the food. How vegan friendly was Cambodia in reality, and what surprised you most about being a vegan traveler there?
So Phnom Penh and Siem Reap both had really good options. I think I was a little bit surprised about that. I really didn't expect to find vegetarian, vegan restaurants, and both cities had both. In rural areas, we didn't have a ton of stops, but where we did, there was not a whole lot. And then when I did go to regular restaurants, those options were sometimes very limited. I mean, not the most awful things. There was one time where I ate a lot of vegetables. But I mean, okay, fine. It wasn't the entirety of my trip there. So that was definitely a surprise. And then in Phnom Penh, there were a few places that I thought were really terrific. I took a tuk-tuk to a place called Bong Bonali, and it was kind of tucked back in these crazy alleys. It was, when I looked at the map, it seemed kind of straightforward because I walked there first and then I took the Grab app back. And it was like all of these like maze-like little kind of tiny streets, and there was 2 lanes of traffic trying to go down it and people walking, which was a lot of fun. And then it was connected to a cute little hotel as well, and it was kind of like tucked back in off one of the alleyways, and it was really quiet, which was a really nice surprise given like how busy the rest of the city was. And they had some Cambodian specials that were veganized. which was nice to try. There was also a really sweet kitty, I think, that came and joined me there. And then I found, and this was a huge surprise, a place called Kufin, which is a cafe that specializes in plant-based coffee drinks. And so they had like coconut matchas and like kind of like frappe type drinks and all kinds of different things. I can't remember. Oh, I had a pandan matcha. That was pretty good.
They usually like to use a lot of condensed milk there, though, correct?
And some of the coffee drinks, not as much as like in Vietnam. I don't remember seeing that, but they do use a lot of dairy milk.
So you have to know that going in, that you have to make sure that they're not adding that to your coffee drink, correct?
Yeah, you have to ask even if they have dairy milk. I didn't go into too many regular cafes. We stopped at like rest areas, small places, and none of them had non-dairy milk. But Kufin in Phnom Penh is a really good option for that, for sure. And then there was this other little tiny place called Magnolia Veggie Restaurant, and it's a vegetarian, mostly vegan place that does a mix of veganized, like Cambodian and Asian specialties. And that place was really cute. They did not, I think one person spoke some English, and so like we cobbled together, okay, that I'm vegan, and they, I don't remember what the heck I ordered there, some kind of soup, and then they brought me a dessert, and I laughed, and he was like, no, it's for you, and so I was like, is there milk in it? And he kind of looked at me funny, and then he brought somebody else out, and I told him, and he goes, oh, yeah, there's milk. I'll get you something else. So he brought me a corn pudding. I guess that's a thing, corn pudding. It wasn't, I will say, it was interesting. It was not the worst thing I've ever tried. Would I order it on my own? No. But I didn't hate it.
Did you find any like sticky rice and beans roasted in bamboo? Like I know that's one of their big items. I think it's called kralan.
Not that, but I did have a different Cambodian dish called amok, which is like a curry that they steam in a banana leaf, and that was pretty tasty.
Traditionally, fish, I think, is...
traditionally it's fished in like a coconut milk. And so the vegan version, I think it was like tofu and some vegetables. And so that was really good. And then in Siem Reap, there was a great place called Hay Bong. And I had matcha pancakes or pandan pancakes there, and those were amazing. And I also had a smoothie there. That place was great. I would have gone there multiple times if I would have had time. And then on a walk, I went to this tiny place that was tucked back into a neighborhood called Ohas. And they also have like a little clothing store attached to it. That was great. And they have a really nice cat and dog, I think, that live there. And then my last suggestion is a place called New Leaf Eatery, and they have a mix of Asian food and Cambodian options. I think I had a muk there. It was super tasty. It might have been super hot, and I burnt my mouth, I think I remember. And they also have a little store where you can buy some stuff as well, too, and that's like right in the heart of town. So some really great options. And then we also visited a social enterprise restaurant in Siem Reap called Spoon's Cafe, and I thought this was a great model. They provide training to young Cambodians in education and training and employment in the hospitality industry. And to date, they have helped more than almost 550 young adults launch their hospitality careers. So a lot of young people in Cambodia, they don't have the money to go to school. They don't necessarily have the ability to go and get some kind of other education. And so social enterprises like this are becoming a little bit more common to offer like student training, a stipend, and they are a full service restaurant as well. And so the students serve you. There's also some other cool stuff that they're doing as well. So that was a neat place to be able to support.
It's always interesting when you come back from some of your travels. You can always tell that you had a new love affair with something. And I think when you came back from Cambodia, it was pandan. You were all about the pandan tea, and I think you brought some pandan snacks home.
That's just Asia in general. I think my first pandan item was in Thailand, and then pandam just carried me everywhere because it was far more prevalent. I had a lot of pandam in Vietnam. I bought the pandam tea in Vietnam.
Gotcha. Okay, so you were traveling with a mostly non-vegan group in Cambodia, correct? How did that dynamic actually play out during the day-to-day?
It was okay. Sometimes it was fine. Sometimes it was really annoying. I will say I'm kind of used to it at this point because I have to do it quite often with work. And so you just learn when you have to kind of roll your eyes and walk on, and you then pick your battles kind of thing with, arguing about other stuff.
But it's a stark difference of the enjoyment level of being in a vegan group versus
oh my god, the difference is
group.
Night and day. Yeah, there are always a few people that maybe I'll connect with a little bit more than others, and maybe we'll hang out a little bit more, but not like with our groups where like people do really hang out. They do enjoy each other's company and conversation. Like that is different. Like on our first day in Cambodia, I said, I was telling the guide, like, hey, I'm vegan, do you need me to go and eat on my own, blah, blah, blah. And so one of the guys, he was from Australia, he overheard me, he goes, vegan? Well, that has to be incredibly hard. Like, how do you eat? And I looked at him and I go, well, looking at me, it looks like I've done a pretty good job, huh, buddy? And he goes, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. So, yeah, I mean, it can be frustrating because, too, like, in this group as well, because I wanted to visit some other restaurants. I broke off a lot from the group and went and did my own thing when I was able. And so that, was really helpful.
Do you feel like when you're in a non-vegan group that you, as a vegan, have a responsibility to kind of explain to the non-vegans like why you choose to eat and live a vegan lifestyle? Or do you feel like you're just kind of there, and if they ask you questions, then you'll answer them? Like what is your responsibility in that situation?
I normally feel like if people want to talk about it and ask me questions, then I'm more than happy to answer. But I have learned with so many topics in life that you don't get anywhere if you try and push your beliefs on someone. And so generally speaking, as people get to know me a little bit more, then they will ask me questions, and then they'll want to know more things. And there was actually a New Zealand couple in that group, and they were fabulous, great fun. And they got really interested in like some of the things I was eating. And the one guy had never tried tofu, so I gave him some of my tofu. And one night at dinner, he was like, hey, can I try that? And then I had given them some chocolate that I bought and some other snacks. And so like that, I think is really nice, because then afterwards they were like, yeah, like I never really thought about some of this stuff, and this was great. And so I much prefer doing that. I am not the type of person who is like going to stand on my soapbox and make people want to listen to me, because you're not going to get anywhere. You will turn everybody off and no one will want to listen.
You make such a great point. Sometimes we label things and then people, just by hearing that label, will kind of have all of their prejudice from just the term, like vegan. So, well, if it's vegan, it must be terrible. They don't actually think to try this stuff or actually understand what it's about. They just have heard what they've heard and they've become prejudiced by it. So I like your approach on all that, and I think that it's very helpful that you will answer questions and be supportive instead of just trying to push your views on people. But when they really actually go to try something, it's like, oh my gosh, this is just more food and it's delicious.
This is tasty,
so,
yeah.
Right. So what surprised you most about Cambodia that you didn't anticipate before going?
Oh, God, the history, the landmines, that approximately 30% of the country isn't safe for people, the infrastructure for people, like all of that was really surprising. And I won't forget it. Our guide was sharing that like in his little village where he lives, they just recently got electricity. And I was like, wow, okay. Like we take for granted the things that we have. And that was definitely something, I mean, you don't think about people living without electricity. And there's still people very much so that are.
Did you feel safe the entire time you were there?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that There are only a couple times, like when I was walking, because it got dark early. And I didn't love walking in the dark because there wasn't always great street lighting. And so in some of those times, I would then just use the Grab app to go somewhere. One of the restaurants that I was going to, it was a pretty straight shot, but it did take me through this like random neighborhood that was completely dark. And the neighborhood itself wasn't really scary, but then there was like random dogs wandering around, and then it kept getting darker and darker. And I kept thinking, all right, this was a really smart idea. So situations like that, but never did I like feel uncomfortable.
Were there any monkey thieves at Angkor Wat that were trying to take your phone and barter with you to get food with it? Or
So the monkeys hang out just at one of the temples, really, and they like pick their times. They only come out for thievery really in the morning. I only saw one or two, and those monkeys were annoying some monks. They were trying to steal some stuff. The monks had like a little setup and like a little temple area, and the monkeys really wanted to take what was there. But they were not, unfortunately, successful in that.
Yeah, that's great. Oh man. So who do you think Cambodia is a great destination for?
I think Cambodia is a really great destination for someone who likes adventure, who wants to get a little bit more off the beaten path, who's looking for something a little bit different and is interested in learning more about history, maybe a little bit more slower travel, a mix of like some city time with some nature. There, in addition to Phnom Penh and Siem Reap, you could go a little bit further from Siem Reap to an area called Battambang, and it is known for some of its like art and community experiences. It's has a beautiful countryside, small villages. A lot of people do some biking itineraries through there. So if you're into biking, that could be a good thing for you to do. Or you could go south. So there's a really beautiful coastal area associated with Cambodia with like beautiful beaches, laid back towns. Kampot is popular for that and also for pepper. So it's famous for these Kampot pepper farms. And so I actually had to Google that because I was like, does that mean something else? Is it not really like the pepper that you put on your food? But it is. And there are a couple islands associated with Cambodia that from the photos look amazing. White sand beaches, turquoise water, and those you could get to from Kampot by ferry. And the one thing to note though with the islands, infrastructure can vary a little bit, so you should be a bit more flexible. If you must have Wi-Fi, maybe the islands aren't the best place for you, but they could be a really lovely, lovely experience.
You mentioned the Kampot pepper, which is the world's first pepper to get protected status, which I think is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible for pepper. Way to go.
I know, right? But I know that manufacturing is really big in Cambodia. So I would imagine that because these people work with their hands quite a bit, that you probably found some nice things there that, Yeah.
So basket weaving, art projects, things like that, jewelry. I did see a lot of that the Spoons Cafe in Siem Reap, they also had a little store that was run by women who were making like little bags. They were weaving them, baskets, all kinds of really pretty things. And then in Siem Reap also, there's a really cool artist market, and this is separate from like the main market that you probably would go to first. I think it's called the Central Market. So the artist market, you'll find like handmade jewelry, all different kinds of things. You'll find little like sculpture type things. You'll find spices. That was a really great place. Like if you're looking for something special, I would totally go there.
So great food, interesting people, lots of different history to see and learn about. It sounds like a really great trip. Is there anything else that you want to leave your listeners with about Cambodia?
I think it definitely is one of those places that you should add on. If you are going already to Asia, head on over. Go check out Angkor Wat. See where Angelina Jolie filmed Tomb Raider. Maybe watch the movie before you go. I keep throwing it out there, and I have absolutely no idea what was filmed and what wasn't. I think some other movies were filmed there as well, too. You could add on other Asian countries that are nearby as well. A great experience. I'm a big believer that once you get over there, try and experience as much as you can.
I mean, I bet you other movies were filmed there. It's 400 acres big. That place is huge.
Yeah, I do think some of the Indiana Jones ones were as well, but I didn't investigate that. I probably should have now as I'm opening my big mouth.
I think it's funny that wasn't even your favorite temple.
It was really cool. No, the Tomb Raider temple, I think maybe out of the Angkor complex probably was my favorite. But I think they has a formal name, but they calls it the Jungle Temple. And it was cool. It's the ones with like the trees, like massive tree roots growing through it. There were also, I don't know I think it was cattle that just randomly wandered through there at certain times. And there are also small groups of musicians playing. And the musicians that were there, when we walked by, they all had been affected by landmines. And so they had lost limbs, but they had learned to play these instruments without an arm, without a foot, without, whatever. And they sounded great. And so you could, take that in as well. Angkor Wat's definitely worth a visit.
Amazing. It sounds like a great trip. Thank you for sharing all that information. I'm extremely interested in these hero rats. I need to go online and check those guys out.
Yes. 2 thumbs up for the hero rats. And then maybe people will see this itinerary on a future Veggies Abroad tour. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining me again, Matt.
A pleasure.
So much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you'd also like to learn more about upcoming Veggies Abroad tours or get additional travel help, visit veggiesabroad.com and also join our newsletter. It's the best way to stay up to date with loads of new content, like where to find gorgeous vegan hotels, what to eat in cities around the world, trip planning tips, and so much more. Well, that's all I've got for now. Until next time.